Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Oh, hello, June. You're knocking on the front door, and sure enough, here we are in summer. And while our bodies may need a little adjustment to the climate, well, the news, it never stops. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by my co-host Sarah Lohman and Nevada Current super reporter Michael M.J. Lyle, and we're going to forge on through why politicians want to build houses in the boonies, how a school shutdown in Mount Charleston sparked so much backlash, and our goodbyes to the fakest, most sublime volcano in the world. It's Friday, May 31st. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Sarah, MJ, welcome to the Friday News Roundup.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good to see you both. And hey, before we get into the news, I want to remind all our listeners that we're still asking you to fill out that annual CityCast audience survey. We are so close to wrapping it up, too. We just need a few more people to take the survey. So if you haven't yet, go on over to citycast.fm/survey. It's only 7 minutes, guys. I mean, there are worse things you could do for 7 minutes than take our survey. Do you have examples? Let's start on that.
Of worse things I could do for 7 minutes.
Worse things you could do for 7 minutes than take our survey.
My dishes.
There you go.
I'm not one of those people that loves doing dishes.
I would kill to have dishes done in 7 minutes.
I got a countertop dishwasher. Yeah. That's it. You put them in.
Oh, so you're just doing the rinse sweep into the washer.
I just load them in and
That's a 7-minute activity. How about you, MJ?
If I'm good and it's not been sitting a while, maybe folding my laundry.
Ooh, another terrible task.
Although sometimes, most times, unfortunately, it is sitting in the dryer way too long and not getting folded. So
you're telling us we could put off these important life tasks that we don't want to do anyway and
do
the
an
survey
important
instead?
CityCast task over at citycast.fm.
Done.
/survey, right? For me, my 7 minutes of wasted time is when I choose to drive over and try to find a parking spot at the Arts District. So instead, I'm just going to walk over and take the survey while I'm walking.
It is 100 degrees, though.
Yeah, it's something to do in the time. All right, let's get into some news stories. Federal land access is not the answer to expanding affordable housing, according to an article that I just read in the Nevada Current, written by one Michael M.J. Lyle. So, Michael M.J. Lyle, what's that story all about?
So, I don't know if you remember, a few months back, we had a special visit, not so special because everyone's going here, but President Biden came for a campaign stop and talked about housing and everything that we want to do federally to address our housing crisis, which we have been in for way too long. It's not anything new.
Yeah, what's it called when a crisis goes on for decades?
Middle age?
An ignored problem. Yeah. But
this town needs some therapy.
But before he headed into town to talk about plans to address our crisis and what federal spending he wants to propose to address this, Governor Joe Lombardo sent a letter criticizing the White House for not making more federal land available in a rapid pace to actually use to address our housing crisis. He specifically said that federal land was the thing that we needed to address our housing crisis. This is not a new concept. He said it before. Other policymakers and politicians throughout the state and federally have talked about federal land for affordable housing. But I wanted to talk to experts to kind of see what they thought, what they really needed to build not just housing, but affordable housing, what we need to actually meet the wages for what people make here, and what are the barriers that they're facing. And yeah, sure, there's some land issues, but it's not land out in the boonies. A lot of these places use infill and kind of try to develop, especially an affordable housing market, try to develop in it. But one of the biggest barriers that they face are financing gaps. So little wonky, nerdy policy. So to build any type of housing, in particular affordable housing, you need like 7 different types of financing. You need federal taxes and tax bond revenues and loans and this and that. And at the end of it, you still have financing gaps. And so what happened when the American Rescue Plan was signed into law by Joe Biden in 2021 without any support by Republicans, FYI, but when that was signed into law, that gave billions of relief dollars to states. And we took some of our relief dollars and put it into developing affordable housing and giving 2 projects to fill those financing gaps. So,
and how did we do with the monies that we got from the federal government to build said affordable housing?
So we dedicated as a state about $500 million, and then each locality also dedicated their own pots of money. And so they're still in the process of development. And all in all, it's going to be about 3,000 new units, which is great. But we are kind of lacking 78,000 units.
So I'm doing math really quick, and that is technically a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. But it's still good. We're heading somewhere. Like, this was unprecedented funding, and we're using it to actually look at these gaps. But
for homes or rentals?
Housing units.
For housing units in
of
general,
housing,
yeah.
I think they just call it whatever it is.
So there are multifamily projects, apartment complexes, and then
So I saw that letter from Governor Lombardo, but I was surprised to see how many people from the Democrat Party also jumped on board. We saw Susie Lee, the U.S. congressional delegation. All of the major mayoral candidates have all said, yeah. So why is everyone so thirsty for this like BLM land, this Bureau of Land Management land that is outside of where the city is right now?
That is a good question. And Dana Gentry, another reporter with Nevada Current, reported on this about a year ago when Governor Lombardo first talked about this during his State of the State, and talking about, we keep talking about affordable housing, but one of the things that you can build out there is also warehouse space. And so there are economic advantages to using federal land and opening federal land, but we might not necessarily see affordable housing or housing development in general. We might see other type of development like warehouse and industrial space. And so there are economic advantages to opening up thousands of square footage of land outside of housing. But I think I'm not going to assign motive, but I know my editor, he painted it as kind of a cruel hoax in the guise of a solution to say we want this for affordable housing when it's actually might not go to affordable housing.
Yeah, there's no guarantee it's going to go to affordable housing. And even if it does, one of the biggest problems I have with this idea of like, let's get new land on the edge of town to build houses is that means that there's a further commute for the people living in those homes. And the people who are living in those homes might not have cars, which means they're spending longer on public transportation. Or even if they do, we know how bad the traffic is in the city. So, I mean, this is, again, something I've brought up in the past that we've seen also in New York City, that people who are working class on down are forced to move further and further and further out from the city center and then make that longer commute, which represents a significant decline in quality of life for people who are often working on the Strip or downtown, right?
You're exactly right, Sarah. And this came up in every conversation I had, from national housing policy experts to local developers and local housing organizers, is the fact that when we build out, we're going to have to think about other infrastructure issues that aren't readily available. And
convenience is for the rich, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask you about, MJ, is that your story gives that context to, let's say, the downside, or at least the broader costs of creating housing in what's basically the desert and mountains right now. So beyond what Sarah's already mentioned, what else are people not thinking about as they push to open up these lands?
I mean, there are definitely some environmental and water costs that are going to come with this. And that also feeds back into this transportation issue. I was just reading this book, City Limits, about this same thing happening in suburbs in Texas. And now to build housing, they keep pushing out and out, but then they keep expanding highways, which produce more cars on the road and more emission. You know, we kind of are in a climate crisis that we have to deal with before it deals with us, which is dealing with us. So there are a lot of consequences. But outside of just transportation infrastructure, people won't have access to their jobs, to childcare, to grocery stores, to healthcare, to grocery and food services. There's tons of things that go into this, building this out. And so
I think like just services, like government services. Like you probably have to start building fire stations out there and police stations out there.
Post offices.
And those are not cheap. And who's supposed to pay for all that, when we have all that stuff infill right now?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to, have to have your kid drive 2 hours to school.
Sure.
Spoiler alert of what's coming up.
Oh, interesting transition to our next topic.
Yeah, right? I mean, that list is on and on and on. All the things that we take for granted living in, the city, when you start pushing it out further and further and further, infrastructure, services, et cetera. But, the issue still remains, guys. We do need affordable housing. Is there any way that we could access this land to build more things that will directly help with our housing crisis?
You're absolutely right. We need more affordable housing. We are in a dire housing crisis, and it's contributing to our homeless crisis that is also rising. But every solution to be on the table, and to say we're just focusing on lands without talking about how we're going to address with financing, if we actually want to have a conversation about tax structures and how we could finance products, if we're not doing research about what infill development looks like and what it costs to rezone and flip vacant lots, if we're not putting everything on the table and just focusing on lands outside of town and not talking about the infrastructure and the dollars that will take, we're not really serious about having a holistic conversation about what it means to fully address and completely address our housing crisis.
Yeah, it's become a talking point, but it's real. I mean, we keep saying the word crisis, crisis, crisis. Sarah, you've been, I'm going to say, involuntarily dealing with the affordable housing crisis up close and personal. What's it like out there?
Yeah, so I am a successful professional with excellent credit, and I am being evicted. I got served 2 weeks ago, and it's a no-cause eviction, which basically means I haven't done anything, but I have to get out in 30 days.
Wow.
I was able to work with my building managers, and I'm in my place until the end of September. But, I got to thinking I've been renting since I was 18, and I want to be a permanent part of the community here. So I started looking into home buying options.
Okay, so how's the hunt going?
Bad. The hunt is going bad.
Oh,
David.
Sarah.
So basically it's dollars and cents. So there's a statewide program called Home is Possible, which helps people of a certain income level pay with grants to pay for a down payment. The cap on that income level is $70,000. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. So $70,000 is your maximum income. I do meet that cap. However, to get a mortgage on a $300,000 house, let's say, the monthly payment is $2,300 a month with the current interest rates. So if you're making $70,000, that is more than half of your take-home pay after taxes.
That
means you're housing insecure, people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, I don't want to be that house poor. Oh, and I should say, there's only been 2 houses that have come up for under $300,000. And one of them was a hoarded out house that was not cleaned out and the ceiling had partially collapsed. Oof. And the other one had recently been on fire. So I can't afford a mortgage. And there aren't even any houses to buy with that mortgage. So
I see some of those properties on Zillow and people post them. They're like, this was just posted on Zillow for $320,000 and it is literally a dumpster on fire.
That's where we are in Las Vegas right now.
Sarah, let's assume that like some BLM land, I don't know, beyond Mountain View opened up like on the edge of nowhere. And it somehow they figured out to make it affordable. Would you be interested in that?
No, because one of the things that's really important to me is community and walkability. I live in Old Town Site Henderson now because it's a walkable neighborhood. I've built relationships with local businesses. I love that. And I'm close to other friends living in Henderson. If I have to move into another rental, which it looks like I will have to because I don't have other options, I'm probably going to move downtown, David. I'm probably going to move to Winchester because I want to be within walking distance of honestly a lot of the people that work on this podcast, like my community. Put me a little closer to Summerlin, where my other community is. There are no starter homes available, period. There's no $100,000 homes. There's no $200,000 homes. Maybe I would consider it if these were true starter homes. But for right now, I want to be around the people that care for me. And that's important. I also, as a single person, I live alone, and having that community is key to my quality of life.
Yeah, well, with bipartisanship and everyone jumping on this BLM bandwagon, I don't think it's the last we're going to hear about this as a solve, and we really appreciate Nevada Current doing a little pushback reporting.
Thanks, MJ.
Anytime.
All right, moving on to topic number 2. A tiny little school is closing up in Mount Charleston, but it's gotten a big reaction. Sarah, what's going on over there?
Yeah, so Earl B. Lundy Elementary School, which is on Mount Charleston, it closed last August during Tropical Storm Hillary. It was damaged in severe flooding. It's 12 students of all ages, elementary school ages, but they are being removed from their community daily, actually. So the kids are being bused to Indian Springs, which is 41 miles away. It's a 60 to 90-minute one-way trip, so they're losing 2 to 3 hours a day being on a bus. This is a story we've been wanting to talk about for a while, and there's sort of a recent infusion because the parents of these kids up on Mount Charleston recently got a letter from Clark County School District saying that CCSD is recommending closure of Lundy Elementary, and that the solution would be to bus the kids to Indian Springs permanently. A lot of people are really upset because they feel there's no transparency. One resident said, "We want a meeting held here with documentation to show us why you made this recommendation. What are the damages? Who did the estimate? What is the estimate? There's insurance on this school." So there was sort of a wonderful opinion piece recently that, was only kind of opinion. It was really just filled with facts, too, of what this situation is like. But now we're talking about going into a new school year with no school up on Mount Charleston for the many people who live there. Rich, poor, federal and state employees.
Yeah,
Lots
and
of
you're
people.
referring to the op-ed from longtime columnist and former Mount Charleston resident John L. Smith, who
Yeah.
talks about that school being like really a community center. And that showed up in the Nevada Indy over the weekend. The closing of Lundy, though, only does affect 12 elementary age students. Is it worth whatever money it would have to be to reopen the school, MJ?
I think it is. I mean, I want to answer this question actually with a question. I would like to know every school district employee who sent this letter and signed off on this, what their commutes for their children are.
Yeah.
And if they think an hour and a half commute would be satisfactory and conducive to their schedules.
I grew up rural, and my commute wasn't that long. It was 20 minutes in the morning and 45 in the afternoon. And the school wasn't, I grew up in rural Ohio, and the school wasn't even 41 miles away. That's crazy. I mean, I should say, too, as part of this, I think that not living in the mountain, we don't understand exactly how much this space is used for. It is an elementary school, but it's also used for meetings, summer recreation. It's a designated emergency gathering place. It's a community center. It's just an all-around community hub, as one resident
there
said.
probably
Voting, yes. So all of this is a community space, not just an elementary school, but since it's closed by CCSD, there's not even... The community is not even being allowed to understand or invest in what's going on there.
I'm so glad that John L. wrote this because I had not been aware of this, and I think a lot of people would be aware of this, and this kind of putting on Nevada Current radar.
Ooh, I should mention too that the school board might vote on its closing as soon as June 13th.
Okay, that is interesting.
And that's just another one of these little storms that swirls around the school board and the Clark County School District. I'm wondering if this is like a microcosm of the bigger issues that we keep talking about: communication, transparency, thoughtfulness,
Definitely.
needs of the community. Do you think this has the potential of becoming more emblematic of problems in CCSD as they're going through their transition than just whether we should save a tiny schoolhouse or not?
Well, I mean, I can say one thing. They don't seem to be handling it with a lot of care. I think that the kind of final thing, the hair that broke the camel's back, is that they did agree to have a meeting, a hearing to discuss this, but it's in Indian Springs.
Oh, insult.
Awesome.
Meet
Yeah.
injury.
So the whole community, so they're making it difficult for the entire community to attend this meeting. And it just feels like that they don't really care.
Oh boy. Nothing says we want to engage a community like putting a meeting an hour and a half away.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, MJ, you're thoughtful about a lot of these issues, and I know you follow, some of this school policy as it affects bigger social issues. Is there another solution out there you think that might make all sides happy?
I'm sure there is. We are great at problem solving as a community when there's quote unquote big things at stake, when industry's at stake. I don't know why those same problem solving abilities don't come into play with something that is deemed smaller as like this school. We have the ability to solve so many things, and I know we do have funding issues, but again, we're a resource-rich community. I feel like there are other solutions to this than having to bus children an hour and a half away. But I think this is something that could be easily overlooked because it is smaller and there is so much going on and there is so much controversy with around education policy and education funding that it's easy for this to get missed. And so those solutions could totally be overlooked because people aren't paying attention.
Yeah, I love what you said. Resource rich, but also planning poor.
Seriously. And, if you're ripping the heart out of this community and a service center and elementary school access, you're also going to kill the community up there, which is part of what makes Mount Charleston vibrant. Not only do people choose to live there, though, but as I already mentioned, there are federal and state employees that must live up there, and they have families. So why won't you provide services to keep this beautiful community going?
Part of me always wants to hold out that there's so many people who want to engender love from our community that they should just swoop in. And the Oakland A's just saved the Lundy School, or F1 saved the Lundy School.
Yeah,
even the
I love these
Ellis family
call-outs.
who's suing F1, who has some interest up in Mount Charleston, they saved the school. But we can't rely on saviors, but we can hope for, as I always say, more thoughtful conversation. So hopefully the Lundy School will be the beneficiary of that, not just another shutter. All right, guys, topic 3, the one we have fun with. I don't know.
You haven't been having fun? You haven't been having
we
fun
really
with
have
me?
fun with.
Fun.
All right, topic 3. This one is bittersweet. Before there was Bellagio fountains, before there was a light shining from the Luxor, before the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty, there was the humble Volcano, allegedly spewing pina colada smell into the air and amazing millions of tourists with its somewhat lackluster performance. That said, it was instantly iconic, and now it's getting targeted for demolition as the
First thing to go.
Mirage Hotel transforms into the giant guitar-themed Hard Rock Hotel on the Strip. I mean, so long, Mirage Volcano. It was both a punchline and a source of strange civic pride. Sarah, you're the historian in this crew.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit about fun facts about the Mirage Volcano, but the one I really want to know is, did it ever actually spew the scent of pina colada? Because
yeah.
is that apocryphal, or did they actually try that at some point?
Yeah, y'all ready for me to spit some Steve Wynn quotes at you?
Love it.
My information comes from the wonderful book, The Strip. Okay, so actually, could I throw that back to you, David? Did you ever smell it smelling like pina colada?
What happened if it got caught in the rain?
What?
The Strip has a lot of smells going on at once, competing for my olfactory. Pina colada, I would say, was never a prominent one, and I probably watched the Volcano a couple of dozen times in my life.
MJ's been holding that joke in for a while. Look at his face. Okay, so
I mean, he likes pina colada.
Yeah, I love a pina colada. Okay, listen though, I don't know then, because allegedly, yes, the idea is that the source of the flame was a pipeline that delivered 400 million BTUs of natural gas, which stunk. They sent natural gas so we can detect it, right? So then to cover it, they added the pina colada scent. But I haven't found any details of how that would be done. I haven't found any I don't want to say nose witness reactions. So as a historian, more research needed. But I do have some other things, some amazing things that Steve Wynn said. So the whole thing cost $30 million to make in 1989.
The whole casino. Oh, no.
Just the Volcano was $30 million in 1989.
Oh, that's right. Because the
when it
casino
opened.
was the most expensive casino of its day, and they had to make $1 million a day just to stay even or something.
That's one of the reasons why it was a big turning point, because Steve and this
$30 million for that volcano.
Wow.
And he did it because he had so much money lended to him and a lot of debt to pay off, but he ended up doing it very, very quickly. So it was a turning point in terms of enormous real estate investment. It was a turning point in terms of, because he didn't just do the volcano, he added the dolphins and the Thing and the jungle of like this whole fantastical resort, which did open up the era of New York, and Luxor, and was the start of like the family-friendly part era of Las Vegas.
Okay.
Not the adult gambler thing. So that's something else he's credited with. Basically about the casino and the surrounding tropical resort and the pina colada smell, he said, it's what God would have done if he had had the money. Steve Wynn.
Perfect.
And the other story from the Strip that I want to highlight, so Wynn initially didn't put a security fence around the volcano and lagoon. So according to the author of the Strip, he was taken by surprise when he saw a teenager wade into the water. With the volcano scheduled to erupt, Wynn exclaimed, he's about to get third-degree burns on his crotch. It was a nightmare. It was a Category 3 mistake. Luckily, security staff came to the rescue. One of my plainclothes jumped in, grabbed this guy by the neck, and pulled the dipshit out. So.
And ladies and gentlemen, that dipshit is here today. Just kidding. Would that be
Just
amazing?
kidding.
Was it
Who's
you?
the real dipshit in
was
that
not me.
story?
Well, I also want to mention on that financing, Sarah, it was junk bond king Michael Milken, who was the financer who later did a little bit of time for some financial stuff. But we got the Mirage, and worth noting is that a lot of locals are going to mourn the loss of the volcano.
Yeah, it's a real icon of the Strip, no?
Yeah, it certainly was. So what do you think would be a proper send-off? How would you celebrate the end of the volcano?
Can I just back up and say, I don't have a memory of, as a young person that grew up in Vegas, I don't have a memory of Volcano, but I have a memory of the Mirage, and that's where I watched the Bronco chase from OJ.
Get out.
Because we were
Is
at
that how you're going to
dinner.
memorialize it in a low-speed car chase?
Rent
Just
a Bronco
driving.
and
Just
drive
rent
it
a
back and
Bronco,
forth
yeah.
in front of the hotel.
It fits well with considering he passed this year.
Go ahead, MJ. What's your memorial? Is that what you're going to do?
Drive a Bronco for the
I mean, would you throw a sacrifice into the volcano? Would you do a performance?
Maybe we should go out and sip pina coladas there.
Oh. I mean, I would love a pina colada on fire. Seems like a good idea.
Oh.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. Like, I've been thinking about I'm just going to open a tiki bar with a mortgage I can't afford instead. And I am going to do cocktails that are themed by each of the now gone casinos. And so definitely the Mirage. I was thinking something with like a really tangy grenadine to get the red of the lava. Ooh, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a pina colada that's colored red from some tangy grenadine, and I'll do that thing with the lime on fire on top. That's my Mirage. Sounds good.
Well, see, here's the thing to me about the volcano. It was all the elements were greater than the whole, because I never was particularly impressed with it. But the faux smell, the faux sound, the rumble, etc. That soundtrack needs to be preserved. And it needs to be set to something else, like maybe some performance dance or something like that is shown on a video somewhere in an art gallery to be named in the arts district. Or assemble like the top science kids at every elementary school in Las Vegas and assemble them along the Strip in front of the Mirage volcano with their own little homemade science fair volcanoes. You know, that's always popular at science fairs. And then on the count of 3, as the volcano is imploding or whatever they're going to do to deconstruct it, all the kids like engage their volcano and they all erupt at the same time, and that's the farewell to the.
I mean, we could
to
just
the
go down to
Mirage.
the Strip with a bottle of Diet Coke and a couple Mentos, and
Yeah, I mean, you could do that too, but this will be
splash it
celebrating.
Super Bowl style.
I want to celebrate the young scientists, and it all wraps up. We celebrate the young athletes so much. I want to celebrate the young scientists, and the Mirage would be the perfect place to do that.
Do they still make volcanoes like that in school?
Did you not go to a public school and enter into the science fair?
I did, and I never made a
Spoiler,
volcano here.
Spoiler, baking soda.
Mentos and
Vinegar.
Coke bottles. Mine was always like, at my school, it was always like, what do plants grow better under different colors of light? Listen, I was just thinking, let's give the bottlenose dolphins a chance to implode the Mirage. Like,
Yes.
Yeah,
I
they
feel
will have their revenge.
They will
They
have their
should
revenge
have their revenge.
before they go swimming off into the sunset. That is what I'd really. Can we give them a little button? They know how to use it. They know what's
how to
up.
use it. They're smart.
They're smart enough to be vindictive,
Oh,
emotionally
that's the
intelligent
best.
enough.
Sarah,
Yeah.
you win this round.
Yay!
A bottlenose dolphin pushing a button to blow up the effing volcano.
I would watch that movie.
That is justice. That is justice.
Well, we have a burgeoning film industry here, so let's get it made. I'm looking at you, Beverly Theater.
Well, Sarah and MJ, another great Friday News Roundup. Thanks to you both for being here.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before we go, I just want to tell you about something really cool that our sister podcast over in Denver is doing. CityCast Denver are doing a program, a series of programs actually, called Lauren Boebert Can't Lose. It is a new narrative series, and over the next month, it's going to lead up to her Make It or Break It primary in June. We're going to be releasing episodes on a dedicated feed. You could find it everywhere that you get your podcasts every Wednesday. There's already 2 of them out through original reporting and speaking with friends and rivals and supporters, detractors, and wait for it, even Boebert herself, who invited the CityCast crew into her kitchen to go have a sit down. The series explores the meteoric rise of the controversial Congresswoman, her most scandalous moments, Beetlejuice, I'm not going to say it a third time, how she exploded onto the scene with attention-grabbing antics, and her fascinating and troubling place in our political culture. So if you're a fan of CityCast, you should really check this one out. We're even going to drop an episode ourselves about her background running a gun-themed restaurant in a town literally called Rifle, Colorado. It's going to be in our feed tomorrow, so make sure you check that out. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. Our producer is Layla Mohammed. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katchel-Reese. And our hosts are Sarah Lohman and me, David Figler. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record the show on the traditional homelands of the Nuuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, hey, you go tell a friend. That's what you do. Also, leave a review. We just got a couple of new ones, and they're really cool to read, and we love the feedback. So go on wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review for us. You could also subscribe to our morning newsletter. It's called Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around this city. Till then, stay lucky. Oh, hold on.
Spark.
Spark's having fun.
He's having fun.